Welcome to Almost Intuitive, JSS Very Own Podcast, a platform where our students interact, influence, and inspire each other with their ideas, and a place where young individuals communicate, collaborate, and connect within the student community. Brace yourselves to indulge in discussions that will explore the extents of your imagination, all while listening to your very own intuition. Well, almost.
Welcome, one and all, to the very first episode of the JSSPS podcast. I'm Nalin,
And I'm Abhishek.
and we're your hosts for the day. In the light of the World No Tobacco Day on the 31st of May, we chose to have this conversation on the topic Away with Addiction. This yearly celebration informs the public on the dangers of using tobacco, the business practices of tobacco companies, and also what WHO is doing to fight the so-called tobacco epidemic. Now, before asking, I would like to ask Abhishek. Abhishek, how's the lockdown been treating you?
Nalan, that's actually a very interesting question because obviously, like the world has never faced such a situation, right?
Right.
Where a virus has the entire world begging for mercy. So it's obviously a new experience, but online learning obviously it took time to adjust to. Then obviously there's long screen time, but other than that, obviously we need to also consider the fact that a lot of menial travel time is cut. So there's a lot more time for us in hindsight. When you actually think about it, we're getting a lot more time. But we really need to buck up and use it, start to utilize it. That's when we can actually make a difference and come out of this lockdown as better versions of ourselves before we actually went into it. So yeah. So Nalin, let me ask you the same thing. How has it been for you?
Yeah, I feel it's a much needed break that the world needed. Obviously, like you said, yeah, travel times have decreased. I mean, it's not even there. So yeah, you can use your time more productively, and you can use this time to develop new skills, which in turn can help you become richer after the quarantine or after the coronavirus goes. So yeah, I feel it's a much needed break that the world needed. But again, we shouldn't say that. I wish it goes. People are suffering.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, people are
People are
suffering.
suffering really bad. So, extend all our prayers to
Yeah.
them. But also, like Nalin, do you feel that at some point this is like a sign which the world, which the earth gave us, that things are going wrong. You guys need to change your ways in that sort of a sense.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Like I remember before, I used to look up at the sky and it was just black. Now, if you go out, you can see stars, and nature has honestly, told us that you guys need to stop and look at what you're doing. Yeah, and
Nalin, but
it's a
you
good thing
couldn't
as
see
well.
stars before? No, wait, but you couldn't see stars before?
Nope, nope.
Uh, it's very interesting. Okay. Uh,
Okay, Abhishek,
hmm,
my first question to you. As
mhm.
students of the century, okay, how deeply does addiction affect our immediate community of students?
Okay, wait. So by immediate community of students, you're referring to maybe specifically in Dubai or UAE or in the
Yeah,
Gulf.
yeah. Yes.
Okay. So obviously we know that the laws in UAE. So now, okay. So in this when I'm talking about addiction here, the context is obviously tobacco because this is in reference to the World Tobacco Day, as we mentioned. So in that sense, obviously UAE has really strict legislature, which uh, largely prevents us teens from getting into all these sorts of bad habits. So I think we're not that affected there, but I think a place where we are affected is the realm of digital addiction. So now obviously addiction is spans a wide spectrum, right? It ranges from video game addiction to mobile phone addiction to these physical addictions like nicotine or tobacco, right? So
Right.
I think this spectrum, in the spectrum, what affects us as students is obviously the digital side, mostly, right?
Right.
So now that's something which we really need to explore and try and understand, right? Because the fact is, uh, obviously, I was reading this article about it, but and over there it was mentioned that your phone, for example, is like a casino in your pocket, right? So
Mm.
basically, it's each the okay. So there's a certain uncertainty associated with your phone. Like each time you maybe check your Instagram, you may have a message, you may not. You may get likes, you may not. Right. So that uncertainty is what fuels people to keep checking. Right. Because and each time they check, it's prompting them to like reset the reset the curve in some sense, so that so they keep coming back for more. So like so that's what I was so that's really fascinating, because when people say that a phone is like a casino in your pocket, you know like that's so many implications, correct?
Mm.
Mm.
The casino thing, yeah, I agree with you. You want more. You want that dopamine
Exactly,
kick.
right.
Yeah.
Mm.
I feel, yeah, addiction is a huge problem, especially digital addiction, like you said. Not only
Mm.
does it affect our eyes and, affect our mental health, but also it wastes our time. That's the most sad part. We can use this
Mm.
time, in other things. We can use it more productively, maybe learn a new skill, maybe spend time with our family, instead of
Mm.
being glued to our phone and, just wanting those 2 3 extra likes, or those messages from our friends. I mean, yeah, it's good, so like it's good for being social and all, but
Absolutely. We
too
like
much is
we
not
cannot
good.
ignore that part also. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, it is, honestly. Yeah. Mm.
Hmm. Right. And also, I've read that these what is it? These tech giants, right? Facebook, Instagram, and the like.
Right.
They invest so heavily into engineering, which will make you stick to their website. So I heard Facebook, they were running some guerrilla tests. So that's GUERILLA. So that's I think that refers to hidden, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a hidden test like survey which they're conducting, in which they're trying to find out uh, what exactly keep people coming back for more. And they have this algorithm with so many different factors, and they obviously at the end they determine like what is it that keeps you coming back for more, and then they start implementing that into their apps.
Right.
So it's right. So we also need to acknowledge that it's not like it's not even our fault at some points, correct? Because
Mm.
people have engineered it to be like that. So
Right. Mm.
that's so now another topic we could discuss on, Nalin, is the fact that how does addiction play out in like a young teen's mind? A young teen such as us, young teens such as us,
Yeah.
like how does it affecting us, and how severely may it change the course of the rest of our lives? Like, does it have that much potency? What are your thoughts on that?
The course of our life, it might
That's
destroy our life. it's so it's
exactly.
so hazardous. It's
Mm.
because not only are we are, in the end we are harming our bodies, and our body is what keeps us alive, if you look at it. Yeah.
Correct.
You're staring at your phone, all the blue light coming inside, your eyes are being affected. Your Have you seen when you play video games for more than 3 to 4 hours, your head
Mhm.
your head starts spinning. So
Mhm.
so we are, harming our bodies in the long run. And
Correct.
yeah, that might affect our life in a huge way. What are your thoughts
Mhm.
on this, Abhishek?
So obviously now when we're talking specifically about teens, the first thing that comes to my mind is teenagers. At the teenage time is the most rebellious time, if you will, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not so much you in control, but it's your hormones which are in control, right? So
Hmm.
all those mood swings, all of that is to some large extent it is controlled by your hormones, right?
Right.
So obviously, when we're talking about addiction, now these teenagers are obviously very critical also because they can easily change the rest of your life. They can drastically change the course of your life, right? So
Hmm.
now, as we say, as we talk about these companies which are hugely investing into, addiction, to making you addicted to addictions, and all these companies which are taking initiative not just in the digital realm, but every other addiction there is. So yeah, so when they're doing this, we also need to think that we are there to stand up for ourselves at the end of the day, correct? So
Hmm.
these teenagers are critical, and it's going to impact our lives. So we really need to start getting mindful. We start really need to start thinking. We really need to start getting aware of what we consume, right? Because a
Right.
lot of the time, it's about how much you consume versus how much you produce for the world, correct?
Correct.
Hmm.
I
So
agree. Yeah.
yeah,
If we don't look at ourselves, then who will? Yeah.
correct. So we are the ones, we're the ones who are accountable at the end of the day as well, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's truly said. Hmm.
Hmm.
I have another question for you, Abhishek.
Hmm. Tell me.
Uh, okay. What if someone you know is struggling with, any sort of addiction,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you can't tell anyone else about it? Yeah. Neither can they. But you
Correct.
know
So
that they
like
have
they're
the
in a
addiction.
tight situation. Correct. They're in
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
tight situation. Hmm.
Yep. They're
Hmm.
in tight situation. What would you do? How would you help them?
Hmm. So now then the thing is, these, addiction is a very, what is it? How do you say it? A sensitive or like a stigmatized topic, correct?
Correct.
There's a lot of like, there's a lot of hazy clouds surrounding it, surrounding the discussion. And now that may, to some extent, demotivate or, make people shun away from help, or, it may encourage them to stay away from any confrontations or any conversations regarding addictions which they experience in their lives. So in these situations, people should really, as I said before, they should really understand. Everyone should understand that accountability is what drives you forward, right? Whatever
Hmm.
happens in your life, if you take accountability for it, if you take accountability, that means you already have learned from the experience, right?
Right.
But when there's when there's something like addiction, these different types of addictions out and about, and they're also being actively promoted by other people, right? When that is happening, it gets hard, for a lot of people. And this is like, I think, the biggest issue we face as a society. A lot of these discussions have become taboo, right? They've become
Hmm.
hard to talk about. So yeah, so I think we really need to break out of that circle and encourage the entire society to open up, right?
Right.
Hmm. So I
Hmm.
think, yeah, so that's probably the biggest issue we have, and that is kind of what I think we should be focusing on. Finding ways to help out people who are already in trouble, because at some point in their lives, people who are struggling from addictions, they also know that it's bad for them. Correct. They just need some help in letting go. So I think that is something we really need to help with. What are your thoughts on this, Nalan?
How would I help them? Yeah. I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
the easiest way, or the most efficient way, you can say, or the only way, is by talking to them.
Hmm.
Because if
Hmm.
you truly love them, then you will go out of your way to help them because you know it's bad for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah. And you can't even talk to anyone else about it. So,
Correct,
best believe that if you don't help them, then honestly, no one will.
correct. So you need
Yeah,
to
I think,
take it personally, sort of, right? You need to take it
yeah,
as your mission. That's
yep.
the, what is it? What do you say? The not the vicious cycle, the virtuous cycle, right? Where
Hmm.
things are, spiraling, and there's positivity blooming everywhere. Hmm.
Right.
So yeah, Nalin, that was really well said, man. Um,
Thank you.
yeah. So thank you so much for listening to this discussion which me and Nalin had. It's been a pleasure having you. If you've made it this far into the podcast, thank you so much. If there's anything you guys would like to get in touch with, please do let us know. We'll have our website linked. And yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye, guys. Bye.